Hello and welcome to Mabina TV. This is where I look at all issues about Africa. So for now, I'd like to look at how do you think African former presidents are treated? That is, how do you think African former presidents are treated? So you find that basically the relationship between the president and his successor in Africa is not all that good. For instance, the current Kenyan president William Ruto and his successor Uhuru Kenyatta are not in good terms simply because the ongoing president did not support William Ruto in his quest for power. So how can you mend the fence between a former president and his successor? So you have in Botswana the president Ian Khama and the successor Magwisi are not in talking terms. So you had Ian Khama fleeing to South Africa. So he is now based in South Africa. Then you have in Ivory Coast, you have the president. In Ivory Coast, you have the president that is Alison Ouattara disagreeing with his predecessor, that is Laurent Gbagbo, and he had Laurent Gbagbo taken to the ICC. So, of course, how should African former presidents be treated? And I think maybe we need to have that collegial league. So you have in African former presidents include the likes of Jakaya Kikwete, the likes of Joachim Chissano. So you have that is a former president basically going on to do some rudimentary work. But I hope that basically we have political parties in Africa that basically are based on a fundamental democratic structure, so that you have political parties that not collapse upon elections. So you have in Africa the political parties are mere election vehicles. That is in Africa we have political parties as being mere election vehicles. And I think for former presidents, then what they need to do, they need to know that power is transit. That is what the Kenyan former president said, that power is transit. One day they will be out of power. So if they misuse power, then they can expect that their successor will come and challenge them. So when you are in power as an African president, think about your people. How do you serve your people? How should you serve your people? Serve your people well, obey the constitution. And one of the reasons why African former presidents don't hang on to power is that they know they have committed many atrocities, so they don't want to leave power. But if you have served your people well, if you have served according to the dictates of the constitution, then basically you do everything possible so that you then basically you will not have a rough time in retirement. And I think that is what African former presidents fear. They fear that when they retire, they will have a rough time in retirement. And I think what they need to do then is to be able to have is to be able to rule according to the rule of law, obey the constitution, treat your people well, make them have economic gain for their people. So that is how you are going to rule your country well. Otherwise, if you are going to rule your country just by ensuring that your people just by ironclad kind of ruling, then basically you can expect that you'll be hounded in a very rough time. Look at the current situation in Niger. In Niger, there has been a coup. Now and people come out to celebrate coups. I'm not a supporter of coups, but you have African civilians themselves coming out in huge numbers and basically supporting the coup organizers. And I think this is not the way to change governments in Africa. I think there are better ways to change governments. Let governments be changed through the ballot and not through let power be changed through the ballot and not through a military coup. So I think right now this relationship between African presidents and their predecessors and the successors, I think, should be narrowed down. So you have the situation in Kenya, the bad blood between the current president William Ruto and the former president Uhuru Kenyatta. Then you have in Botswana the bad blood between the former president Ian Khama, who was the son of the founding president Seretse Khama. So you have the President Ian Khama, former President Ian Khama, and the current President Magwisi. You have in Zambia the outgoing president, that is Edgar Lungu, and the former President Edgar Lungu and the current President Hakainde Hichilema. So I think if you are the president in Africa right now, you need to rule by the rule of law, obey the constitution, do what your people want them to do, and then basically that is where so that when you retire, you will not have a lot of regrets as to how you roll. So that has been this has been the Mabinda Africa TV for now. This has been where I have looked at the relationship between the current presidents and the former African presidents. How can they be mended? How can they be better? So this has been Mabinda Africa TV for now. Till the next episode, goodbye for now.